Good
morning, everybody. Hello, Mimi. How are you? Thank you for hosting today's webinar. We are just waiting for some of our members of the team to show up, everyone. So just bear with us a second while everyone gets in today. If you can hear me okay, if you just say hello in the chat, that would be great. Means we got the tech side of it right. So I'm Surya. You might have seen me in the previous webinars. I work on the customer success side of KPM. I am being joined by my colleagues today, Cal and Chandni, who are account managers, onboarding managers, and they also sort of like co-lead the customer success team at KPM. What we will be covering today is we will be going over the bookkeeping module on how to set things up. So there's some features about the bookkeeping here, but we'll be predominantly focusing on the onboarding side of things. So how would you set up your first client? How would you bring in the trial balances, things to look out for when bringing things in, and all the other bits. So without further delay, we can get started, and I'll just start sharing my screen. Hey Cal, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning, sir. I'm doing great.
Morning. So I might drop off, guys. I do have some slight internet issues lately, so if I do drop off in the session, Cal will be letting me know, and what we'll do is we'll try and continue the session. So just be aware that there might be slight issues here or there, but hopefully not today. But let's begin. We'll start off by looking at the bookkeeping system, and this is our bookkeeping dashboard. So firstly, you'd see that there is a split between your old clients and the clients registered for VAT. That's an easy sort of a guide to see which clients are VAT registered, so you can keep on top of the VAT schedules, and you can also track the number of submissions that are going out for VAT. So month on month, you are able to compare which submissions have went through and which are still in the overdue section. So as you go along, you'll see that these your submissions will get updated here. All of my submissions are KPM submissions because this is a demo account. However, you'll notice that as you make submissions to HMRC in live accounts, you will have HMRC submitted here. Now, following this, we have the client. So what we'll do is we will look at our setup for a client, and I'll be switching between clients to show you once the setup process as well as the completed product. So you'll be able to see both of those. So let's get started with this and look at London PCO. So what I'd do here is show you how an existing client would look like and how we set up to get this client to this particular stage. So to get started, you would always start from the settings section. And in the settings section, you have the company info, where you need to make sure that the information of the company is up to date. I think to keep an eye out on here is this book start date and the business start date, because if your book start date is set automatically, it can be the wrong date based on if the data was provided or if there are any errors in the upload process. So keep an eye out for the business start date and the book start date. And once that has been established, you would also be able to give in the details about the VAT, if the business is VAT registered, if it is the type of submissions it's doing, either quarterly or annually or monthly, and you can also update the VAT registration number here. So that information, once that's been updated, you could go into settings, and you need to make sure that you haven't selected your Word document invoice template. Now, if you do select this, what happens is there is a Word template that you can customize, but you'd have to download a Word file, update it with all your company logos and everything else, and you can re-upload it. However, by unchecking this box and having it saved, you are able to use one of our PDF templates that you can send out directly when processing invoices. So these invoice templates would then become available. You can simply upload your logo or your client's logo to process and create invoices. So there are several different invoice types, and you can choose from the one that you like the most. And once that's done, you would look at the accounting periods. Now, when you create your first accounting period, you can create the current year, so the year that you're working with. And when you click on this prior accounting year, the system would automatically generate the prior accounting period for you. And following this, you can also just simply click on this auto period generation. And by clicking on that button, what would happen is the system would automatically generate year on year the new accounting periods as you go through the year. So something somewhat similar to what I have here. Next to this, you have chart of accounts. So we do give you a comprehensive chart of accounts. However, if you want to add anything specific to this client, you are able to add that here. If you want to add the chart of account codes across your whole system, you can just go back to the bookkeeping dashboard. And under the dashboard, you have general settings, chart of accounts, where you can add a new chart of account across your practice. So you can choose limited, sole trader, partnerships, and LLP here. So you are able to add it for one entity or all sorts of entity in one go. Going back into that client again, once you have done your chart of account update, all you have to do next is to upload the opening balance. Just bear with me 1 second. I'll get that done. Let's zoom out a tad bit. There we are. So under general settings, you'll see that there is opening balance. And in the opening balance, you would be able to update the opening balances as you go along. So two things to note here. If you've got assets, you want to split your assets to go in individually. So if an asset, if there is asset A, asset B, asset C, you want to have them in 3 separate lines. The reason for that is that we've got a fixed asset and auto depreciation elements that you can use in the system. And by using those elements, you're able to auto depreciate the assets as your end of year comes across. So every end of the tax year, which you have selected in the accounting period, you would be able to automatically process the depreciation entry there. Now, after that, we will have the trade creditors and the trade debtors. Now, both of those balances have to be merged. So let's say if you've got a list of your trade creditors, so these are all of your suppliers, what you would have to do is to merge your supplier balances and merge your customer balances, and you'll explain those balances to create the opening entries for your supplier accounts. So what you can do is you can upload your opening balance here, and once it's been uploaded, you would simply go into contacts, customers and suppliers, and you would be able to upload your customers as well as your suppliers here. And what then you can do is to just go back into the settings, and you will explain those opening balances and split your trade creditors and your trade debtors between your contacts which you've just set up. Now, once that's done, you are essentially ready to start using the system. So these are the steps you need to do to set up the software for the bookkeeping and start using it. Once that's done, you just need to do 2 things until the opening balances have been journaled out. So let's say if your trade debtors have an opening balance of £299 for Alexander here, what you have to do is you have to simply you have to journal out the first entry and with the payments. So as you get the opening balances paid, you just create a one journal because the system has only got the opening balance. So for that, if I go and show that to you here, when we are doing receipts, you can create a receipt or do a direct bank record matching. But if you do that record matching in the system for the very first time, without having any transaction, it would go in as an advanced payment. So what you can do is you can simply create a journal entry, write and match the payment across the journal, and the journal will write off the opening balances, and you can continue to create purchases and sales as you go along, BAU, and as you start business as usual, you will be able to, the system will start picking up on the invoices from the list of invoices, and you can then match them with the receipts. So for example, I'll just show that here. So if I select Anthony, it shows me all of their invoices which have been created. And all I have to do is, if Anthony has paid a certain amount of money, I could simply type that here. So let's say they've paid off this invoice and this one. And what the system will do is it is automatically going to do the amount received, and it would reconcile these two invoices as you go along. So as you start using the system, you'll get here to this stage. Now, what I'll do next is I'll go over the sales, purchases, and quick entry systems, and then we'll look at the fixed assets, the bank processing, as well as the MTD section. So now let's say if you want to do sales and record sales for your firm, you could simply just go into the invoices and create a new invoice, which is one of the standard ways to do it. The other way is to bulk import your invoices. So you can bring in several sales invoices at once. And by bringing them all in at once, what you would notice is that they will, let's say if you have sales in Stripe or PayPal or anywhere else, you could just simply bring those in bulk and import those invoices. And once they're imported, you'll see a list of invoices similar to how I see them here. This exact same thing can be seen in purchases as well. So you can create a single purchase, and with the single purchase, you are able to do just one purchase at a time, and you also have the option to do bulk purchases. So for that, you would just simply click on import, and again, you are able to download the template, upload the data, and you would be able to do the purchase there. We then have CAPI scan, and with CAPI scan, you would notice that you are able to scan receipts, and those receipts would come straight into the system. We also have a newer version of CAPI sign, which would have several, would have layered integration. So we have receipt scanning, you have the the bank feeds, and a whole host of new automations which are introduced as part of our KPM 365 release. So that is essentially going to be the next version of CAPI scan, where you can scan multiple receipts at once, and all of those would be shown on this page for approvals. Now, I'll be switching and alternating between sales and purchases because essentially they're just a reflection of each other on two different sides. So again, you would see that on the sales side, we have quotations. So you can raise quotations for your customers and convert those quotations into invoices once a quote has been accepted. So you have that option, which will then convert your quote to an invoice, and it tells you the invoice number once that's been completed. And the other thing is recurring invoices. So you can essentially create a recurring invoice which will repeat on a particular monthly frequency or a weekly frequency. You can choose this to be 3 months to make it a recurring every quarterly sort of a thing. And if you selected 12 months, then you have the annual recurring invoices as well. So you are able to customize these and select what works best for your organization. So that's the sales recurring invoices, and you'll see this recurring purchases, which is very similar to the recurring sales. And then you have receipts where you would be able to create cash receipts or bank receipts. And what receipts would do is it would create a bank line as well as create and match the payment. So let's say if you're importing your bank using bank feeds, the receipts will duplicate that transaction, and then you will have to go into the bank section to match the duplicate transaction, and it essentially consolidates both of your transactions and keeps the one which has been matched. So that comes in to essentially help you to reconcile these things a bit better. For sales, we also have links with KPMG, and this is our embedded payment system. So if you sign up for KPMG, you are able to send out payment links for yourself and your clients, where they are able to get paid using cards or bank transfers. With KPMG, what the system is able to do is it would automatically reconcile the invoices for you. So it takes away from the invoice reconciliation, and it would also post the journals into the bank, and you would be able to match the KPMG with the bank feed transactions as well. So it does come in quite handy if you run a business which has embedded payments, or somebody who is wanting to go towards embedded payment systems. We also have items here, and this is to track inventory systems. So what you are able to do is you're able to track inventory, and you're able to add items to this list. And once the items are added in, you're able to purchase those said items, and you're able to sell those items from the sales section as well. So saying that, the once inventory is done, you would see it in the quick entry system, and sorry, not quick entry, my bad. Once this is done, you would see them in the inventory system as opening stock, purchases, and sales. I'll take a quick minute's break, and before we go into bank, and we'll just like to put in a quick poll on how many bank accounts do you guys usually work with. And once the poll closes, we'll resume on looking at the bank account.
Surya? I think we've lost Surya. Cal, would you mind jumping in for him?
Hiya. Yeah, let me just give him a quick call just to see, and if not, I will go ahead and show.
Apologies, everyone. Please bear with us.
Sorry, guys. I was having some network issues there. Right. So we've seen that there are people are having anywhere between 1 to 5 the range of clients that you have in your bank, sort of for bank feeds and everything. So what we'll be looking at next here is bank feeds. So what we'll do now is, if we look at, so once you have your purchases and sales, you have the other option, which is quick entry. We'll look into quick entry in a minute, but I'd like to show the bank next. So with bank, what you're able to do is to match the transactions that come in. So let's say you have made a particular sale or a purchase. You could go into the bank, and from the list of transactions, you're able to match those transactions in. So right now, you would notice that these transactions are ticked off here, which means that everything has been reconciled. Now, if there are transactions which are yet to be reconciled. You'll see them in a red question mark. Now, banks can be imported in several ways. So the first option is for you to do a bulk bank import. So let's say your client gives you a CSV file. You're just going to upload that and process the transactions from there. You can use this bulk import function. If your client then gives you, let's say, if they are a dormant company or have minimal to no transactions, you can use the manual method of typing in. So, for example, you could just type in, money out, and then you can put in the transactions. So let's say I'd say £100 out and £1,000 in, and you can save those transactions. And essentially what that does is it creates your line items as you go along. So you are able to do the import, the manual import where you're typing things in, and then there is the bank feeds. Now with bank feeds, you have to purchase the bank feeds first, and to purchase bank feeds, what you have to do is to go into My Admin, and in My Admin you have My Subscription, and under Subscription you are able to let's wait for the subscription portal to load up. So under this portal, you have the subscriptions, and in there you can put in the add-on for your licenses. So just give me 1 second. I'll just go into products in. So yeah, subscriptions, you have to click on products, add-ons, and on the add-ons, you have to select the bank feeds, and you can add the bank feeds here. So once you've added the bank feeds, you can then use these bank feeds and apply those bank feeds. To apply the bank feeds, again, you would have to go into the My Admin portal. You would need to make sure that the bank is created first on your client's account. So as you see, I have a number of bank accounts created here. And then under My Subscription, once you've purchased the bank feeds, you would apply the bank feed to a particular client. So you'd go My Subscription, bank feeds, and then you'll have the list of clients, and you can create and send them a link. Now, once you send the link to the client, your bank feed is activated for 90 days. And once you're getting closer to the 90 days, you are able to reactivate the bank to keep the feed going. Bank feeds cost you £1.50 per bank feed per month, and that's excluding VAT. And as you can also, once you've gotten the bank feeds, you would be able to essentially automate the process for your bank imports. Now, from this, so if I were to match this transaction, you'd see that there is these options which are available to me. So I've got direct receipt, match journal, match quick entry, customer account, transfer, and multiple transactions. So with direct receipt, you are essentially creating a new transaction from scratch, and you're able to allocate it to an account. This does not require you to create a sales or a purchase item. You can directly allocate, and this works best for smaller companies where you're doing direct allocations. You can also use cash coding, which is a easy tool where you can just search by terms. So let's say if I want to only look for money out, I can search for that, and it would only filter out the money out transactions. Now, if you have loads and loads of transactions, what you'd notice is you're able to filter it out further. And in filtering it out further, you're able to fine tune and find the words, let's say telephone or internet, stuff like that, which you can then bulk assign to a particular nominal code. So you do not have to always use the sales and purchases. You could do nominal code allocations directly from the system as well. Now, once that's done, let's look at the other options which are available in terms of processing transactions from the bank. You can match a transaction with the customer account. So let's say if I got £1,000 paid, I could select customer account. It gives you the drop down of the customer. And once you've selected the customer, it gives you all the invoices. And what you can then do is to split that amount between invoices. And if you have any remaining or a leftover transaction, you can also make it an advanced receipt. So you can, by doing that, the next time an invoice is raised, it would be offset against the advance that is already available in the system. And the same thing applies on the opposite side for suppliers. You can do transfers, which are essentially transfers between bank accounts. So let's say if you moved funds from bank to cash or cash to bank, you would use the transfer function here, and you have the ability to create a new invoice. So it would create a new invoice, match the invoice, and do the full process of the invoice matching for you. And the same thing would be on the purchase side here. And then you could do refunds for purchases, refunds for sales as well. So both of those can be processed in the system as well. Now, you would use the sales, purchases, bank for accrual processes. You can also just choose to use bank directly if you're working with a small client. And there is also another system we have called Quick Entry. And with Quick Entry, you're working with more so predominantly the cash-based business. So you'd notice that there is receipts and payments, and you can add as many rows as you need here. There is also a bulk import function for Quick Entry. And what you are doing with a Quick Entry is you're adding the customer or supplier, allocating it to a nominal account. And once that's done, you have the invoice date and the payment date on the same page. So essentially, if these two are the same, or if you know when your invoice was created and when it was paid, you are able to use this tool to add everything and match everything in one go. Now, this comes in handy if, for example, your client gives you a bank statement where they give you the invoice numbers and all the other things matched on it before they give you the details itself. You're able to upload all of that data here and get everything allocated at one go, so you do not have to go in and redo those things again. So again, it comes in very handy for cash basis, but you can also use this for accrual basis. But at the same time, once you've created the Quick Entry, instead of creating the purchase, you're then going to match from the bank to the Quick Entry. So it works for both accruals and cash basis. However, we recommend you to use Quick Entry for cash-based transactions only, because that favors it a bit better. We were discussing assets earlier when we were setting up the opening balances. So if you see, these are the list of the transactions which have come straight through from opening balance, as you see there. And those you are able to explain in the system. So once you've explained the asset, you can say where the depreciation goes for that particular asset, whether it's administrative cost, cost of sales, or distribution costs. And once you've selected it, you are able to select the rate and the type of depreciation. So I could select between reducing balance and straight line, and the rate of depreciation as, let's say, 5 or 10%. And what the system will do it can, once you've selected auto depreciation, it is going to run the depreciation journals for you until you've told the software that an asset has been disposed. Now, to dispose an asset, it's quite an easy thing. You simply click on the action drop down. You could say sell, you could say dispose, and based on that, the system would take this out. So the next year's transactions will not have the depreciation. It can also do apportionment. So let's say if you bought an asset halfway through the year, it would be able to apportion the asset's depreciation based on the number of days it's got available in that financial year. Once it's done the depreciation entries, it does look a bit like this. So this is some of the depreciation that we were able to run. So if you see, there is the asset acquisition date in 2019, the acquisition price of 25,000, and the accumulated depreciation on that asset was 20,000. So at the end of this, our book value of that asset currently is 5,128, and you are essentially able to track that across all assets. The stuff which hasn't been explained would sit in the bottom in red, and once it has been explained, it would do something similar like you see on the screen here. Now, once you start using the rest of the system, you can create contact, you can create supplies from multiple different pages, and you can track how much each person owes you by running reports on them. So you've got customer reports, supply reports, and several different ways to keep track of your aging debtors and aging creditors. So it comes in quite handy to make sure you're getting paid in time. And once you are able to monitor these, you can also use this exact same system to do VAT submissions. Now, if the business is VAT registered, you are able to go into the chart of account codes and customize some of their most used codes and edit them to have a VAT rate on it, for like a fixed VAT rate on it. So for example, my sales, I can put the VAT code as standard 20%. So every time a member of your team selects sales, invoices, and processes a new sales entry, it would automatically pick the 20% VAT rate. And you can do the same thing for most used transactions. However, you can do this account by client basis. So you cannot do this in bulk. You have to go into each individual client and define their sales VAT and other VAT sections, and that essentially helps you to see the total sort of like, it makes your process easier when you're recording the information for your clients. Now, all that data, when you're doing the VAT return, would be captured in the submit VAT section here. And the way you would get and create a VAT period here is by beginning again in VAT settings. You'll make sure that your VAT registration number, VAT scheme, and everything else is correct here. Once this is saved, you'll go into the View VAT Details page. And here you'd have to authorize KPM as your HMRC MTD software. And once you've done that, it will auto-populate your obligations. If you're not seeing the obligations, that means that that connection hasn't been successful. But most of the times you will see an obligation here populate the second you've typed in the credentials in the previous page. If you have a VAT period which is over 1 year, what you would have to do is, in case of corrections and other things, you'd have to use bridging VAT if you're doing any historic VAT submissions or anything else. But in your day-to-day activity, you could just use the submit VAT function, create a new VAT period, and once you've created the VAT period, you would include and exclude the transactions. And what the system will automatically generate for you is your box 1 to 9 figures, sales VAT, purchase VAT, and you would have the no VAT transactions as well. You can also report you can also download a VAT report as a PDF file, and from this section, you're also able to send this out directly to your client to be e-signed using CapiSign. And then finally, we have the CIS section. Now, if you run CIS schemes, what you are able to do is under the purchases, firstly, you are able to do subcontractor verification under the CIS scheme here. And as you add subcontractors, you can verify them. And if you are recording anything for the CIS, you just have to go into purchases. And in purchases, you will toggle the purchase invoice to CIS invoice. And here you can select between labor and material. And you also have the CIS domestic VAT reverse charge here. So you are able to select that on the transactions as you go along. And again, as you use the system, it would auto-generate your CIS report, and you are able to directly submit that CIS report to HMRC. Now, saying that, I think we've covered everything here in the system. Do we have any questions?
None so far, Surya. You did a
Right.
very thorough presentation there.
Yeah, no, I think the setup. Sorry, the initial setup for your bookkeeping module is what would essentially make or break it for you guys. So just make sure we will send this recording across to you. In your opening balances, if you are having any issues setting it up for the very first time, reach out to your account manager or reach out to our support team, and we'll make sure that everything has been set right for the first company. And once you've set it up one time in KPM, you're able to replicate that recipe any number of times. So I think it's more of just getting it right, getting your ingredients right before you can start with this. So I hope that session was a bit useful and we tried to cover everything on it. But if you do have any questions, you can reach out to your account managers again, and we can do a one-on-one session with you guys in a bit more detail.